Rouhani becomes Iran's new president. As most of you have probably heard, Hassan Rouhani has won Iran's 11th presidential election following a vote that saw a massive popular turnout on June 14th. Nearly 50 million Iranians, including more than 1.6 million first-time voters, were eligible to participate in the elections. So a pretty interesting biography. It says here he started out his religious education in 1960. They said he moved in 1969. He was admitted to Tehran University, received a BA in law after 3 years, and earned an MA and PhD in law from Glasgow University. It says after the latest Khomeini's return from exile in France in 1979, Rouhani was politically active in Europe. He also held question-and-answer sessions with students in Britain and France. Elected to Parliament following the establishment of the Islamic Republic, served as lawmaker for 5 consecutive terms until 2000. Says here he also held positions as a deputy speaker, for this Mahala's speaker, and head of the Defense and Foreign Policy Committees. During the 1988 war between Iraq and Iran, he served as a member of the High Council of Defense and commander of the Iran Air Defense and deputy commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And lastly, he speaks fluent English, Arabic, and Persian, and has written nearly 100 books and articles, as well as conducting 700 different research projects. Speaking of the old president, Ahmadinejad called to criminal court, charges unknown. So Parliament Speaker made complaint. It says here, the enemies of Ahmadinejad are wasting no time in summoning the outgoing president to Tehran criminal court. Parliament Speaker, who has consistently been a thorn in Ahmadinejad's side, lodged a complaint against him, though his charges haven't been announced. It says the summons could herald a difficult future for Ahmadinejad, who Reuters notes that who has questioned the authority of the supreme leader and accused the Rowhani's family of corruption. Moderate Iranian leader could hinder Israel. So this is from the AP. The surprising victory of a reformist candidate in Iran's election has put Israel in a difficult position as it tries to halt the Iran nuclear program. Israeli leaders basically welcomed the signs of change in Iran, but they were warning that the world should not be fooled. Let us not delude ourselves. The international community must not become caught up in wishful thinking and be tempted to relax the pressure on Iran to stop its nuclear program. And we have Syria seeks to bolster Iran ties after Rouhani win. So Syria will seek to expand its relations with close ally Iran after moderate cleric Rouhani's presidential election victory, saying Syria wishes to further expand its relations with the new Iranian leadership. He called the vote a sincere expression of real democracy that showed the unity of the Iranian people and their political and spiritual leaders. Not totally surprising to me that Egypt is trying to close their embassy with Syria, being that, like I said, I think that they're a Zionist Western proxy. Syrian government on Sunday condemned Egypt's decision to cut ties with Damascus and back the armed opposition groups against Assad, calling it as an irresponsible move, saying the Syrian Arab Republic condemns this irresponsible position. Says Syria is fully confident that this decision does not reflect the will of the brotherly Egyptian people, who have shared strong and firm relations with the Syrian people that have contributed to protecting security and stability in the region against all invaders and aggressors since the dawn of history. It says the ties between the Syrian and Egyptian people were crowned by October Liberation War, which made an important victory for the Arab nation and people over the Israeli enemy. Noting that Mursi'd announced that the severing of ties were to deflect attention from the eternal crisis. This is my website, Global Government News, or GGNonline.com, and on YouTube, my channels are DDarko 2012 and DDarko 2013. What is your take on the recent NSA scandal? You can have different, 2 days left to vote, but there's about 4 options, not much. Another controlled leak to engineer consent. So far, 100% are saying that. Followed by 0% for this is progress, a grassroots campaign against a surveillance state. Yeah, my take is that most whistleblowers end up, like I was talking about yesterday, with concrete socks on the bottom of a river or lake bed or whatever, and they're never actually heard of before they even blow the whistle. Also, like I've mentioned before, it's a pressure release valve. That's why it's funny that they call them whistleblowers. They're blowing steam. It's when people are getting tired of it or they're aware of it, they go ahead and check the algorithms and see what people are willing to take, like kind of like what's the threshold for gas prices, $5, and they try to push it to the limit, and then when they do, they come out with these controlled leaks. That's why, who Anonymous, WikiLeaks, who the hell are these groups or people? Where do they come from? They're complete controlled opposition, in my point, to engineer consent. Iran to send 4,000 troops to aid President Assad forces in Syria. U.S. urges, blah, 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 right? So, but who knows if this is really true? Maybe it is, but they're going to send the first contingent of 4,000 Iranian Revolutionary Guards to Syria to support Assad. And they go in the article and try to make it into a sectarian thing where it's, they say, ooh, it's mostly Sunnis, the rebellion or uprising. The thing is, it'd be one thing if they were Syrian Sunnis, but they're actually mostly foreigners. This is, according to German intelligence, 95% of the, quote, rebels, Syrian rebels, are not even Syrian. So that just goes to show you what they're trying to do. They're playing it into the Hezbollah Shia thing. U.S. House passes bill to ensure Israel can remove existential threats. So this is unbelievable. National Defense Authorization Act instructs U.S. to take all necessary steps to help the Zionist state of Israel defend its vital national interest, among them preventing a nuclear Iran. It says here the amendment initiated by a neocon from Illinois, first reported by Americans for Peace Now weekly legislative roundup, would require the president to report every 90 days on how the policy is being implemented. House version of the act already included a number of Israel-related measures, including tripling Obama's request for missile defense cooperation funding from $96 million to $284 million. This says the report would identify all aerial refueling platforms, bunker buster munitions, other capabilities, and maintenance by Israel of a robust, independent capability to remove existential security threats, including nuclear and ballistic missile facilities in Iran, and defend its vital national interests. Which is not surprising. I didn't know this, but he had Pat Buchanan actually saying Congress is an Israeli-occupied territory. As while D.C. is increasingly consumed with bickering between Democrats and Republicans, the U.S.-Israel relationship remains the one issue that transcends the partisan divide. The Syrian war, Israel and U.S. are coordinating how to target Assad's arsenal. Also, we've heard about them basically cooking up an attack on Syria, joint attack. At an operational level, cooperation between the two countries, I don't even know if you can call them two separate countries, but either way, it says this has been exceptionally close and growing closer as Washington publicly ramps up its military involvement in Syria, saying here things are really happening behind the scenes, says one Israeli official. Things are really happening. IDF not commenting on report that Israel attacked Syrian airport. So the IDF was not commenting on a report that the Syrian TV said here associated with the terrorists or rebels that Israel attacked on Sunday night a military air base in Al-Mazah, west of Damascus. The TV station reported that Israel bombed advanced weapons and radar systems that were recently brought to the airport. Eyewitnesses said the explosions were large and that neither the Assad regime nor the rebels had the capability to create explosions of such magnitude. So Israel's trying to take out airports. Israeli troops violate border, try to kidnap Lebanese citizen. So a Zionist infantry unit abruptly violated on Saturday the Blue Line in this Rowhani River region south of Lebanon, the border, trying to kidnap a Lebanese man. So it says here they were in Lebanese territory for about 23 minutes. They were chasing down this fisherman, and then he managed to get away, but they eventually stole all of his gear. Chemical weapons experts still skeptical about U.S. claims that Syria used sarin gas from Kalachi. So it goes on here, and he voiced skepticism Friday about the U.S. claims that Assad had used the nerve agent sarin against rebels on at least 4 occasions this spring. He says, although it's always possible, they've yet to see the telltale signs of sarin gas attack, despite months of scrutiny. It's in a world where even secret executions of people like Saddam Hussein were taped by someone. It doesn't make sense that we don't see videos, that we don't see photos showing bodies of dead and the reddened faces and the bluish extremities of the affected. We do see videos of the rebels experimenting on rabbits with sarin gas, what looked to be killing them. We also see videos from Syrian state TV showing that regular Syrian civilians and Syrian government forces were hit by some kind of chlorine chemical attack done by the rebels, so we do know that. Former French foreign minister confirms preparation for Syrian war underway since 2010. So it's kind of big news. Making a guest appearance, former French Foreign Minister Mr. Dumas said that he was sounding out by the British in 2010, that is to say before the Arab Spring, to support a war against Syria in Israel's interests. In Israel's interests, their national interest, which becomes the U.S. interest. So, not a big surprise there. Decision to arm Syrian rebels was made weeks ago, says U.S. officials. The decision to begin arming the Syrian rebels followed more than a year of internal debate over whether it was worth the dual risk of involving the U.S. in another war and seeing U.S. weapons fall into the hands of extremist groups. Private money pours into Syrian conflict as rich donors pick sides. About some of the money donations to the terrorists, they said it came too little, too late. The U.S. and Middle Eastern officials described the money as a small portion of a vast pool of private wealth being funneled to Syria's warring factions, mostly without strings or oversight and outside the control of governments. Of course, the big one is Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. Former advisor to the State Department said direct money from the Gulf is super empowering some of the jihadi groups. Says with the U.S. holding back, there is a vacuum, and within the vacuum, private money is giving jihadists more pull. More training, right? Obama succumbed to blackmail by militants in Syria, says Shoeridge. So Obama, he has not shown strength of resolve in saying he will arm the rebels. What he has done has shown weakness in succumbing to the blackmail. They have said, unless you give us arms, we will not be attending your peace conference in Geneva, which they're trying to get Iran to go to. CIA to use secret bases to arm rebels. They're preparing to deliver arms to rebel groups in Syria through clandestine bases in Turkey and in Jordan. No big surprise, they've already been caught arming Turkey, especially assault rifles, machine guns outside of back of a pickup truck by Turkish government forces were expanded over the past year in an effort to establish reliable supply routes for the terrorists. Qatar and Israeli regime discuss arming Syrian militants, so that's interesting because I think they've already been doing it, but they basically coordinated and met Qatari officials in London to discuss arming these terrorists. It was held in London in late May. It was decided that Israel prepare and supply weapons needed by the terrorists in Syria and enter negotiations with European arms manufacturing companies on armed purchases and money transfer methods, and on the Qatari side cover the funds and needed budget for purchases. Assad says Europe will pay price for arming the militants. If they send weapons to the opposition militant groups inside Syria, they will pay the price. They said they'll pay the price as its depth will turn to be fertile ground for terrorism in the cases of Europeans sending weapons to militant groups in Syria, he told the German Daily. The militants will return to their countries with extremist ideology and high battle skills. Again, this is what we've covered. This is what all the European nations have conceded, including Russia. Talking about France and Britain and the relations, they, along with the U.S., look for puppets that enforce their interests, and we refuse to be as such. We've always been independent and free. France and Britain are historically colonial powers. Probably they have not forgotten that. They act in this region through representatives and collaborators. It says what is happening in Syria is a chance for those states to push non-submissive states towards the brink and to look for a new president who says yes to their orders they have not found and they will not find in the future. So it says here, talking about foreign troops fighting for the Syrian army, he stressed that the mainstream media is trying to convey the image that the Lebanese resistance of Hezbollah is fighting in Syria because the Syrian army is weak, but that's an exaggeration. In fact, we won great victories in the past few months. But they haven't been reported. No one else is fighting in such areas as the Syrian army. London mayor opposes weapon support for Syrian rebels, saying, "Don't arm maniacs." And Al-Qaeda, Putin warns West not to arm organ-eating Syrian rebels. Says you will not deny that one does not really need to support the people who not only kill their enemies but open up their bodies, eat their intestines in front of the public and cameras. Are these the people you want to support, said Putin. Zbigniew Brzezinski says Obama's Syria plan is chaos, baffling, a mass tragedy. Also, he said, I do not see what the U.S. right now is trying to accomplish. Jordan's King Abdullah tells his soldiers will emerge victorious from the Syrian threat, as the nation hosts growing numbers of U.S. troops and weapons, with the U.S. likely to use Jordanian soil as a staging ground for any action against Syria, since Turkey is in the middle of mass riots. Russia not to permit no-fly zone over Syria, that's one of the things also with Jordan. Russia's foreign ministry says, I think we will not permit in principle such a scenario. We saw the example of Libya, how such a zone is introduced and how such decisions are implemented. We do not want to repeat this. Iraq no-fly zone viewed as a symbol for one in Syria. Some in the White House are trying to point out that the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq is a symbol of what can go wrong when America's military wades in the Middle East conflicts. Saudi Arabia wants missiles for Syrian rebels. Al-Qaeda-backed rebels blow up mosque in eastern Syria. The terrorists kill 60 regime forces in a car bomb attack in Aleppo. Thank you.